Right. And when you say a lot of parity, a lot of upsets, absolutely no kidding in that statement. You had number 19 Louisville going on the road at number 9 Miami. So obviously these rankings were very different going into the game. Louisville wasn't ranked. They had lost to Virginia in their big chance to get ranked. They were right on the outskirts. And then Miami had dominated just about everybody they played outside of Notre Dame, where they dominated for a large part of the game. Notre Dame snuck back in, but they still won. They hadn't looked fraudulent. They looked great all year. They really did. Like, Miami was playing at a really high level. And Louisville goes on the road, and Louisville played great. I want to say that first and foremost, but Carson Beck's play is unacceptable. I think that's a big part of this. No touchdowns, no passing touchdowns, right? That's a big part of it. They still scored 3 touchdowns. With guys like Mark Fletcher, he had a rushing touchdown, but then he only had 18 yards, and he's your leading rusher, where it's like Miami was really struggling, and you can't have 4 interceptions at home and expect to win. I think that's the biggest problem with this. You can't have 4 interceptions and expect to win, and you only lost by a field goal. You threw an interception at the end of the game in field goal range. Carson Beck's play was absolutely unacceptable here, Jack, and really out of characteristic for his season so far.
Yeah, it was for sure. This was very surprising because Louisville has struggled with teams
Mm-hmm.
like Virginia earlier in the season with that OT game. But this is a very good team.
Right,
And Jeff Brom loves to upset these teams, especially on the road.
right.
He's 4-4 against top 5 teams, and that's his alma mater. And I think his
Mm-hmm.
probably needs to be brought up in coaching decisions for these new jobs that have opened up, like Penn State, Florida,
Right.
stuff like that. But yeah, Carson Beck, very bad performance from him. And is in the post game interview, he kind of blamed it on his receiver for not catching that ball or running the wrong route. So not taking accountability there. And this was not a good game from Miami at all. Just 63 yards rushing. You said the leading rusher was only 18 yards, 4 interceptions.
Right.
Could not get anything going at home against this Louisville team.
Mm-hmm.
It was just not great from what a lot of us thought was the number 1 team in the country with their resume. So far this season, just so many teams they've just absolutely destroyed.
Right.
You just mentioned Notre Dame, USF only limited them to
Mm-hmm.
12 points,
Right.
and Florida State.
Yeah.
This is just insane. Miller Moss had a great game, 248 yards, 3 touchdowns. Chris Bell, 9 receptions for 136 yards. And this defense, I think, could be in the conversation for best defense this week, along with teams like Michigan. 4 interceptions, first time that has happened since
Right.
2022. And limiting
Yeah.
them on the ground game so effective. Just 63 yards. And Miami's defense really just, I mean, Reuben Kane was like one of the names to look out for this whole season. Did not really see anything from him in this game. Could not get the run game going at all. And that's been a continuing struggle for Miami this year. This
Right.
is, I think their college football hopes are still very much alive because this is their only loss in that ACC championship. I think very well they could win that. But this is very suspicious for them this season.
Right, definitely. And when you start to look at the landscape of the ACC, this was a game that they really needed to have when you really think about it, because now all of a sudden they're really far down in the standings. They're even behind teams like Stanford, where it's like Georgia Tech and Virginia. They don't face another ranked team. They don't face anyone that's particularly great. If they win out, they would certainly be in that conference championship, even like SMU and like Pittsburgh, and then Louisville, who's going to end up having that tiebreaker when it's all said and done. So I still think Miami's a good team, and they do have a solid resume, but a lot of those great wins were out of conference. That's what's tricky about this. They beat Notre Dame and South Florida, both teams that are ranked pretty high, out of conference, where you really start to worry about Miami's playoff hopes, because if they don't get into that ACC championship game, could really get very interesting for Miami's hopes in the playoff.